Scotland is an incredible destination. This country is filled with vast open landscapes, incredible scenery, an abundance of wildlife and endless hiking opportunities. Billy Connolly once famously said there are just two seasons in Scotland, June and winter, and in this video we're going to experience them both. We're going to take you on an epic road trip around Scotland, highlighting some of its top attractions and its hidden gems. Most Scottish road trips inevitably begin with a tour of Edinburgh, and while I definitely recommend spending 3 or 4 days to really get to know the city, even if you're shorter on time, so you have 1 or 2 days to explore, we're going to show you some of the highlights and top attractions that you shouldn't miss. We've begun our time in Edinburgh by exploring Dean Village. This is a picturesque little village nestled within the heart of Edinburgh, right next to the Water of Leith. It was actually originally a milling community founded in the 12th century, but now it relies more on tourism and it's home to one of Edinburgh's best views. At its peak, there would have been 11 working mills here. In fact, Dean Village only became a part of Edinburgh proper in the 19th century. One of the things that makes Edinburgh so special are all of the people living there, and so we were lucky enough to talk with a local business owner about what it's really like to live in the city.
Hi guys, my name is Samuel, living in Edinburgh 15 years. We opened the shop, Glencoe, about 1.5 months ago, just before the festival started, so it was a really busy day. So mainly we are doing schiacciate, which is a flatbread from Tuscany, is where I come from. We also have some nice retail Italian products and I think great fresh brew coffee. And it was my dream to do this and we finally made it. Unfortunately my business partner Daniela is not here. She's half Scottish, half Italian as well. So yeah, we tried to put the Italian heritage together and coming up with something that could really work in Edinburgh and hopefully is appreciated by kind of everyone, tourists and non. Thank you.
What's your favourite thing about having this business in Edinburgh?
First of all, the area, West End, which is full of amazing people, very supportive as a community, and also because people really travel a lot compared to 20 years ago. So they really appreciate good food, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Passion, I think.
And what's the best thing about living in Edinburgh in general?
The fact that Edinburgh is in Scotland, and Scotland is probably one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I
agree. Well, thank you so much for your time. And also, how can people come visit?
We open every day at 7:30, 8, depends, obviously in weekend is open later. And if you really want to try our schiacciata, you're more than welcome, but try before 3 o'clock, okay? Because otherwise it's always sold out. Thank you.
Very big. Princess Street is one of the main thoroughfares through Edinburgh. This is where the tram passes and most major bus routes. To be honest, this street is filled with high street brands, and so there's not much by way of attractions, but this is where the Balmoral Hotel is, which is where J.K. Rowling finished the Harry Potter series. Princess Street Garden separates the old and new towns of Edinburgh. It was created in 1820 and covers 37 acres, which is quite a big distance, and so we're just going to show you some of its highlights. This park offers spectacular views onto Edinburgh's castle and is a really popular place among locals to come and chill out, have a picnic, spend time with your friends. It's also one of the best times to visit right now as it's the fall, as you can see all of the leaves changing on the trees. One of the most beautiful highlights of the garden has to be Ross Fountain. This is a 19th century example of cast ironwork, and the details on it are very, very fine. You definitely want to come here and take photos of it. It's just so beautiful. This memorial commemorates a very friendly bear who actually fought as part of the Polish army in World War II. After the war, he eventually moved to Edinburgh Zoo, where he passed away in 1963. Today, you can come and see this memorial, which not only honours the bear, but also the Polish people who fought during World War II. One of the coolest elements of the garden has to be the world's first ever floral clock. This was installed in 1903. The display is changed twice a year in summer and winter, and now whenever you visit you can see moving time with a floral decoration. Obviously, Edinburgh is quite a rainy city, and so if you're not as lucky with the weather as we are today, then there are a number of free museums which are pretty beautiful throughout the city. One of the most famous is obviously the National Gallery, where you can find lots of Scottish artworks which are really famous. The Scott Monument is dedicated to Sir Walter Scott. It stands at 61 metres in height, and it takes 287 steps to get to the top, meaning that it's the biggest sculpture ever erected to a writer. You can actually pay a small fee to go to the top. Unfortunately, it's closed today, but it is a defining monument in the Edinburgh skyline and is visible from all over the city. The Royal Mile is so cool because it stretches roughly 1 mile between Edinburgh Castle and Holyrood Palace. It's full of pubs, tourist shops, and it's completely cobbled. It's mainly pedestrianised, and although it's a bit touristy, it's a must-see when you come here because it's full of iconic sights. While the Royal Mile itself might be completely bustling, there are dozens of little side streets which come off of the Royal Mile, and they are very narrow, as you can see, but they are very nice if you want to get away from it all. The most famous close is probably Lady Stairs Close, and that's because it's home to the Writers' Museum. This charming little museum is set over several floors, and here you can learn all about the writers of Edinburgh. Victoria Street is probably one of the most beautiful streets in Edinburgh. It's also the most photographed, and the best view onto it can be found from Victoria Terrace. Today, Grassmarket is known for its many pubs and its view onto the castle, but this was actually the site of public hangings from 1660 until the early 18th century. And if you thought this was a good view of the castle, then I have an even better one to show you now, and it's just up here. The Vennel is a great place to end our highlights of Edinburgh before we move on to the Scottish Highlands, and just look how nice the view is in the fall. Before leaving Edinburgh, we just had to sample a little more of its fantastic culinary scene. We began our evening with a pub quiz before heading to Umi, a Japanese restaurant serving up all kinds of tasty dishes in intimate wooden booths. The Cairngorms is the UK's largest national park. It's home to around a quarter of the endangered species found here, and almost half of it is wild land. We're starting off today at Delfor Stone Circle because this gives us a great view onto the surrounding area. We can see forest, we can see farmland, and of course we can see the mountains. This stone circle is thought to date from around 4,500 to 3,500 years ago. It's a clava cairn, and once upon a time it would have been surrounded by a circle of standing stones. Today only one of them remain. In this area there would have been dozens originally, but now only a few remain, and this is obviously one of the best preserved. We've come to Lochs, which is one of the best places in Scotland to see ospreys. It's a kind of bird, which is a predator, but unfortunately, I think it might be a bit late in the season to see them as they typically leave around August. However, this is still a great place to see lots of different wildlife, and already on the way in, we saw people with huge cameras, so I think we'll have some luck. Here we're surrounded by marshy bogs, and it's really handy because there's a lot of information panels that will tell you what you're looking at, for example insects or specific plants or even mushrooms. For a few pounds, you can access the visitor centre, where you'll be able to talk to some of the friendly staff and learn more about the local wildlife of the area. Another highlight is getting to see lots of the local birds, as there are several bird feeders dotted around the place, and I particularly love seeing this woodpecker surprised by another bird. Castle Roy means Red Castle, and it's just a short drive away from Lochs. It dates back to either the 12th or 13th centuries and is one of the first examples of its kind in Scotland. It's really unique in that its layout is really well preserved from back in the Middle Ages. If you make your way up to the top of the castle, then you have a great view onto the Cairngorms if it's a clear day like today. You also get to see the old kirk, which is unfortunately closed, but its exterior can still be admired. Of course, we're also surrounded by local wildlife, as well as lots of farm grazing animals like horses and cows. This is Loch Morlich, and it's one of the most beautiful lakes here in the Cairngorms. We actually have a really good view onto the Cairngorm funicular, which is where we just were to see the view down onto this loch. I've never seen so many ducks congregated in one place, and the lake itself is also very well known for water sports. You'll have canoers, kayakers here, and also just people swimming if they feel brave enough. Loch and Eilean is yet another loch here in the Cairngorms, and this one is particularly special because it's home to a little island, which in turn is home to a castle. No one is quite sure about the origins of the central castle, but it probably dates back to the 13th century. Now only its weathered stone walls remain, reflected in the still waters of the loch. Close to Loch an Eilean, you'll find another smaller loch by the name of Loch an Moor. There are actually beavers living on the lake here, but unfortunately we only managed to spy their dam. We did, however, manage to spot some deer nearby. Today, we're going to be exploring the beauty of Glencoe. Now, this is probably one of the most stunning places to visit in Scotland. As you can see, it is a bit rainy, but to be honest, that's par for the course in this area because it rains over 180 days a year here. We're currently on the Ballachuish Peninsula, which is best known for its amazing views onto the nearby Burial Islands. From here, we have a great view onto Eilean Mund. Now, this is also known as the Island of the Dead because for centuries it was used by Highland clans as a burial site. In the 7th century, a monk by the name of St. Fintan Mundus actually founded a small chapel, and today there are still some gravestones on the island. If you want to learn more about the history of Glencoe, then you need to head to the Glencoe Visitor Centre. There are a number of informative exhibition panels here detailing the history of the area. There's also a film you can watch. It's just 10 minutes, but it really gives you an insight into what makes this area so special, as well as its tragic history. On the information panels themselves, you can learn about local wildlife, and we even learn about the rainfall. For example, did you know that this is one of the rainiest places in Scotland, and New York, which I think receives quite a lot of rain, only receives a third of the rainfall that Glencoe receives. One of the most unique things to see at the centre is this reconstructed example of a turf house. This was the kind of abode that people would have lived in back in 1692 at the time of the Glencoe massacre. It's been painfully reconstructed using historic techniques, and you can really see all of the love and care that's gone into it. It doesn't actually take that much time to drive through Glencoe. However, if you want to stop at the many viewpoints, lochs and glens, you want to dedicate at least a few hours to exploring this amazing place. The River Coe runs west through Glencoe, and when you're driving through this steep valley, you'll find lots of little waterfalls pouring into the river. They're really spectacular, especially after a day of rainfall. The past week there's been quite a lot of rainfall even for here, and so we're getting a real treat with all of the waterfalls. Because the landscapes here are so surreal, they've been used as a filming location in many famous films, including, of course, Skyfall. But the spot we're going to see now was actually used as a setting for Hagrid's hut in the Harry Potter series. Unfortunately, the actual hut has been removed for both environmental reasons and also because it was always meant to be a temporary structure. However, if you come here today, then you can see a view onto a nearby loch, as well as the surrounding mountains, as long as it's a clear day out. The Three Sisters is so cool because it's a set of three sister mountains. If you come to the car park here, then there are a number of walks which start from here. You also have a great view down onto the valley. As I mentioned, lots of iconic movies have been filmed here, and if you've watched Skyfall, then you probably recognise this scenery. One of Scotland's most famous exports is, of course, its whiskey, and so we decided to head directly to a distillery in order to learn more for ourselves.
Hello, welcome to Tomatin Distillery. I'm James, one of the tour guides here. We've been making whiskey here in the Tomatin area since 1897. The name itself just comes from the Gaelic for hill of the juniper. So Tom Hill, Achin Juniper. So the name just comes from the place. Back in the 1960s and 70s, we were the biggest producer of whiskey in Scotland, producing 12.5 million litres of spirit a year, and most of that whiskey was going into blends. Nowadays, we are more focusing on single malt whisky, and we're producing about 2.5 million litres of spirit a year.
How long does it take to make whiskey?
So most of the whiskey making process is about a week, but then after you make the new make spirit, it has to be stored in an oak cask for a minimum of 3 years and a day. But most of your popular whiskies are between 12 to 18 years old, typically speaking.
And something I found really interesting during the tour is that the whiskey doesn't originally have the colour that you associate with whiskey. How does that happen?
We're kind of making beer to begin with, which we call wash, and then that gets boiled twice, essentially, double distilled, heated up and cooled down. After that point, you've lost the brown colour of what's similar to beer, the wash, but then it gets a brown colour from the oak cask afterwards, once it's matured in there.
We've come to Dufftown, which is the malt whisky capital. Now, there are a few interesting things to do in this area. Obviously, there are a lot of distilleries, including Balvenie. There's also the Balvenie Castle, which lies in ruins, but you can pay a small fee to visit. And there's also a number of Highland cows in this area. If you're a fan of all things train related, then a fun way to grab lunch is by heading to the old Dufftown train station, where you can actually dine inside an old train carriage. The town itself is really quaint and is filled with the kind of stone cottages that you associate with the Highlands. It's definitely the perfect autumnal escape here, as there's lots of little shops to explore. Once in the town centre, I loved heading into Ben, a literary cafe where you can peruse books as you sip on hot drinks, the perfect way to spend an autumnal afternoon. Of course, Scotland is on an island, and so you can't come here without heading to the sea at least once. We've come to the Moray coastal trail, where I don't think I've ever seen as many sea bars in one place. We then headed a little further up the coastline to reach Burgh Head. This was probably one of the best bird watching spots I've ever seen in Scotland. We saw so many. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more UK travel content. See you next week.